All right. Another game, another loss for the Utah Jazz, who have now lost 9 of their last 11. Tonight, Devin Booker scores 43 points and absolutely just demolished the Utah Jazz. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd postgame show. But before we do, if you're new here, please make sure and like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. And we just need more viewers here. We just do. I know a lot of Jazz fans probably aren't watching this because the Jazz are losing a lot of games, but if you are a Jazz fan and you like watching about the Jazz lose and talk about it afterwards, this is the place for you. So like and subscribe. That would be great. All right, let's talk about this game. Let's make me small and let's pull this up and let's just look at what happened. The story of the game really for this one was the main story for the Suns was Devin Booker and what he did. He scored tonight. He was much more efficient than last game, and it was like last game he had 17 points in the first quarter. Tonight it was the same thing. He had like 20 something in the first quarter. He ends with 43, 57% from the field, 33% from three. Just solid numbers. 12 points, 4 assists. That's just really good. And he killed the Jazz, and he's just become such a threat. And the duo of Chris Paul and Devin Booker together is just very, very good. In a way, it's kind of like this nice cohesiveness they've found where Devin Booker scores. Sorry, I'm crossing my legs like a gentleman. Devin Booker kind of scores between the 20s, like in football, and then you have Chris Paul in the red zone. When it's like crunch time, they just put the ball in Chris Paul's hands, and it's a formula that really works for them. And so the Suns are just a complete team. I know they're missing a few guys, Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton, but they still have guys like Mikal Bridges, who is fantastic defensively, and Cameron Johnson. We talked about it last time. I love Cameron Johnson. And you know what? If you want to know how great Chris Paul is it's just look at what Bismack Biyombo does on this team. He looks like friggin' I don't know. He just looks really good. But 12, what is it? 12 points and 12 rebounds and for us, let's see, is that Bismack Biyombo? No, 12 points, 6 rebounds. Still, he looks really solid. You know, Jalen Smith got some run. He was one of those guys in the draft I actually liked. I felt like they drafted him high. They really shouldn't have drafted him as high as they did, but I did like him, and it's nice to see he's starting to get some minutes and looks pretty decent. So good for him. If he can figure out that shot and stuff, he can become a nice little weapon for them. But yeah, Landry Shamet, he's one of those guys that I don't know. I don't know. He might not be good. And 11 minutes, he took one shot, got one rebound and one assist, and that was it. So shout out to Landry Shamet. Anyways, congrats to Suns fans. They just get 2 wins in a row against the Jazz, who are without Don and Rudy, and good for them. All right, for the Jazz, what do you got to say tonight? It was the Jordan Clarkson experience. He started off the game kind of doing some of those things that make you scratch your head. The Jazz come out in the first quarter, and the defense is just putrid. And really, that is the big story for this Jazz team is defensively, they just are not good enough. They just aren't. It got better, though, but that first quarter, they couldn't overcome it. Even with having they held the Suns to 11 points in the second quarter, which is great. But they can't have defensive lapses like they did when the Suns scored almost like 40 points in the first quarter. It's just hard to recover from that, and I don't care how good you do. And then they just, they had boneheaded plays where they had 2 transition opportunities in a row at one point, and it was like the first or second quarter. Bogey dribbled the ball out of bounds on one. Another, Royce misses a layup, and then Ingles fouls on the rebound. And then, just kind of boneheaded plays. There were just some weird, strange things. Mike Conley had a bunch of turnovers tonight. He had 3 turnovers for Mike Conley, which is not very Conley-like. It's just frustrating. And when you're playing against a Suns team like this that is such a complete team with such good talent, you can't have boneheaded turnovers. 3 turnovers for Bogey, 3 for Mike Conley, 2 for Hassan Whiteside, including the foul at the end, which, and he said at the end that it was a bad call, and And I have no doubt it was a bad call. The refs are stupid. NBA refs are just dumb. But you've got to be careful. And then he compounded it with a technical foul, and it basically sealed the game. I don't think the Jazz win the game regardless, but it definitely made sure. Um, so that was tough. I think at some point we got to start having a little bit of a Royce O'Neal conversation. He was minus 12. He was just absolutely killed by Booker. He cannot guard Devin Booker. He just cannot. And it starts to make you wonder if Danuel House, I still don't know if I'm saying that completely correct. Danuel House might be someone to start thinking about. But Royce, just, I don't know if he's injured or what. But it's kind of the same story with Royce defensively. At times he is, he just is a streaky defender. I've talked about this before. It's, you've got streaky shooters like Jordan Clarkson, and then you've got streaky defenders sometimes. And that's Royce O'Neal to me. Some guys he can just defend, and some guys he just can't. And Devin Booker is one of those guys. He still had 5 assists and 5 rebounds, and I love all the things that he brings to the table. He did have a steal. That's nice, and he shot 3 for 5, and he made a 3. But, I mean, he took 2 shots from 3 and just 5 overall, and he had 8 points. And you just need a little more. And I'll be honest, Mike Conley had a nice night at getting people involved, but for most of this game, I felt like Conley was pretty quiet. The numbers kind of pan out too. 5 for 12 from the field is good. It's fine. And then 1 for 4 from 3. He did have 10 assists, which is nice to see. So I guess maybe we should lay off a little bit. I felt like Mike Conley in the fourth quarter was especially awesome. That was when he really tried to will this team, along with Jordan Clarkson, who was just absolutely on fire to end the game. It was a fun game, to be honest. It's just a pain that it ended like it did. Cook it up, ZZ. Thank you, my man. $7.99. I appreciate it a ton. I think the Jazz beat the Suns in a 7-game series. Hassan really lazy, especially at the end of the game. Royce isn't good anymore, and why no Butler? Yeah, let's just dissect this. Hey, thank you, Cook it up, ZZ. I really appreciate it. You're the man. I actually kind of agree. I think if Donovan Mitchell is playing at the level he was playing in December when he won Player of the Month, I think they definitely can beat them. I think Donovan has shown that when he hits that high level, he is just incredible. And the same goes for Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, when he is at an elite level, is fantastic. And I feel like the Jazz have kind of learned how to beat the small ball stuff a little bit, especially with Bojan Bogdanovic. And that was another disappointing thing tonight. Bojan, who is playing through some sort of injury, some sort of finger injury, which really sucks. You can just see the numbers. They're just really bad. 3 for 13 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3. 7 points. If Bogey can actually shoot the ball, then the Jazz probably win this game, to be honest. But it sucks. And Royce has just struggled recently. I don't get it. Royce has really tapered off. At least defensively, and it wasn't really there last season for the last part of the year, especially in the playoffs. And he started off really solid, and now it's looking like it's just tapering off again. And so it is just really difficult. Royce O'Neal, whom I love, I really love Royce O'Neal. It's just tapered, and I don't know if it's just wear and tear or injury, but man. Andre Anthony Ailes, welcome to Starter. Andre, welcome to the Starter. Welcome to a guy that makes rotation minutes and makes buckets. We've got like a starter that the Jazz need to trade for, and we got one in Andre Anthony Ailes. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to Starter, baby. A starter. And that's what the Jazz need, too. They need some sort of rotation guy that can guard the perimeter, and it might be Danuel House, to be honest. Or maybe it's go out and get Marcus Smart, right? Marcus Smart would have helped. That's another thing, guys. I know some people in the chat and some people who watch are not big Marcus Smart fans. I personally am. Because it's like, one thought is, thinking about Marcus Smart, if you see him on the floor tonight, do you think he could have impacted this game? And I think he 100% would have. If you can put Marcus Smart on Devin Booker and say, go stop that guy, I mean, that would be such a big deal. And we see what happens with this Jazz team when they have good defenders on the floor around some of this offensive talent. They become a really, really good team. But the Jazz have spent... Well, I actually want to hold that thought. I just want to say Jorge Arizaga, member for 12 months. Jorge, we've been doing this for a year. All-star Jorge Arizaga, mi amigo de abajo. This will make us a better team. I agree. Maybe. We'll see. I think it'll make a better team because they'll decide they need to make some sort of move to fix this team. But what I want to say is there's three things that have happened over the last 3 years that I feel personally have really hurt this Jazz team and have kind of gotten them to where they are now, where in some ways they're just kind of broken. One, the Jazz have not made any real big moves with their core lineups for 3 years. You know, they've added around the edges with like backup point guards and Rudy Gay for George Niang, which hasn't really moved the needle much. You know, they brought on Emmanuel Mudiay a few years ago, and he's out of the league. He can't even make a team, and they trade Dante Exum for Jordan Clarkson, which did actually help the offense, and I actually think it did play a big part in them being a better team, honestly, just with the offense. But now the Jazz have so much offensive talent. I don't know what you do with Jordan Clarkson at this point. But nights like tonight remind you that he can just do incredible things, and he did awesome things tonight. Dang near helped him win the game, plus 26, and he was or 26 points, and he was a +2 in a Jazz loss. So, ugh. But anyways, not making any moves that kind of affect that core rotation, and just kind of running it back every year for 3 years. And Quinn Snyder keeping that same rotation the same no matter what, every single game. Whether it's Derek Favors as backup center or Hassan Whiteside as backup center, it doesn't matter how they play, how much energy they bring, how effective they are on the floor, the rotations are absolutely the same. And I think that lack of changing out rotation players is having a negative effect. And then just kind of adding on to that, the fact that there is no consequence for these players if they don't bring energy or poor play, it's bad. And players just feel like, well, whether I try hard or not, I'm still going to get my minutes. It's hard to not see that when I'm watching. It's hard to just not notice that a little bit. You know, if you don't have any consequence for something, chances are you're not really going to change if things go bad, right? If you can get away with doing something and nothing bad happens, then you're probably just going to do it again. It's just kind of human nature. All right, so that's the first thing that I think has kind of gotten this Jazz team to where they are right now. Oh crud! Did I already forget the other two? It's late. That's why I'm yawning. Oh, okay. Second thing. The way the Jazz defense is set up, where I actually think I combined two into one. Anyways, the Jazz defense for like 5-6 years has just made it so that every time a defender is on the floor, they just gear things towards Rudy Gobert. So all these Jazz players are just taught to do a certain thing, and it's drive guys to Rudy Gobert. And so what they do is they just have these habits where they just let the players go to Rudy Gobert. And in some ways it has worked, but we've learned that over the long haul and we've learned that over the last 3 years in the playoffs, it just comes back to bite them. Because these Jazz players are not playing with defensive principles like keep their man in front of them. They are just allowed to just let people blow by. And then at some point they're expected to just like turn it on, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And so it's rough. You know, and that's why I think when we see someone like Eric Paschall, who joins the team this year, we've seen it with Daniel House, even with Trent Forrest to some extent. These guys are playing to keep their man in front of them. Eric Paschall does not let his man drive by. You know, Daniel House from his times on other teams is just, he does not let his man drive by. And you can see the effect. And I think this system that Quinn set up, who obviously was meant to be a good thing, has actually had a negative long-term effect. Guys are just letting guys drive to Rudy Gobert, and now Rudy Gobert's not on the floor, and the guys have to learn how to defend again. And it's had a long-term negative effect. It's really rough. So, uh, I just I I don't know how you fix that. At a certain point, you've got guys, and some of that may just be that certain players are old. Like I think Quinn and the front office that he got fired, that mostly it just seems like it was Quinn's vision, is that you can drive guys to Rudy Gobert, and that way you can keep older, less athletic players uh, to stay on the floor because you have Rudy Gobert. You can keep guys like Joe Ingles and Bojan Bogdanovic and Jordan Clarkson and guys like that who are not plus defenders. Ingles used to be 3-4 years ago. He is not anymore. My goodness, he is not anymore. But those guys are able to stay on the floor, and we found out that, you know what, in the long run you're hurt because you need guys like Daniel House guarding, and if you don't, then you have Devin Booker score 43 points. It's just another night, another guy having career high night. Such is the tale for Utah Jazz. The other thing I was going to mention too is the other principle that the Jazz have been taught. So I remembered them all. Shout out to James for remembering them all. The other thing is this team has also been taught to, instead of play transition defense, they just foul. And they've been taught that for 6-7 years. And it's had a bad long-term effect. Two reasons why there's going to have a bad long-term effect. One, the NBA has said they're getting rid of the Euro foul next year. So Jazz players better get used to starting to go get back and play in transition. Stop the ball handler, stuff like that. Basketball 101. Right now, they're just taught to just foul them. And we saw it backfired. Mike Conley had got a transition opportunity, and clear path foul was called when he fouled Devin Booker because they're so used to, instead of playing transition defense, you just do a take foul, but it's frustrating. And so these are just like some bad habits now that the Jazz have. They don't play transition defense, and they don't defend on the perimeter. And they've been taught to do it. That's the thing. They've been taught this. This is what you do. And so the Jazz and I guess I can kind of, to some extent, kind of understand the Jazz don't have a top 5 NBA player. They don't have LeBron. They don't have Giannis. They don't have prime Kawhi Leonard or someone like that. They have, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, both top 15 guys when they're playing their best, and arguably top 10 sometimes. But they don't have that guy that just can kind of carry the load like a LeBron or a Kevin Durant. They just don't. And so in some ways, I think the Jazz tried to kind of game the system a little bit by, with the offense, with the shooting, and then Rudy Gobert, and trying to find like advantages here and disadvantages here. And hopefully the advantage outweighs the other. Like hopefully the 3-point shooting and the incredible offense outweighs the fact that certain players are going to do really well against the Jazz, like Devin Booker in the mid-range. And, I can understand. But guess what? It's had a long-term bad effect. And now you've got guys that can't defend. The Jazz are old. I mean, Bojan Bogdanovic is just not, he's hurt. Royce O'Neal has just tapered off this season defensively. Joe Ingles can't guard anybody. Mike Conley is a pretty, I would say, solid to plus defender, but he's undersized. And we know that Donovan Mitchell's just not a positive defender. And so, Jordan Clarkson, not a good defender. It's tough. It's really tough. And so you've got guys like Daniel House that need more minutes. The Jazz, guys, it's a tough situation. But the fact that the Jazz have been taught these principles and have been doing it for years and years is kind of frustrating because now it's just, this is who they are. And this is what they've been taught to be. And you can understand why it was taught, but now you're feeling the effects of those things. And I don't know how you fix it other than making certain moves, And honestly, it might not even need to be moves to like bring someone in, more moves to just give guys more minutes. I think Daniel House needs more minutes because he's a good defender and he's cheap. And if the Jazz can get off some of these contracts, and like, wouldn't it be nice if the Jazz actually cleared some contracts and could be under the cap and actually sign a free agent? Wouldn't that be nice? But right now, the Jazz are so far over the salary cap, they can't do anything. And so, really, what happens is they've painted themselves into a corner and they have to re-sign all these guys. And so, I mean, this is a longer talk. We should have another night, maybe. Just a think piece for SLC Dunk, maybe. But the Jazz just are in a situation they've created for themselves. They've created the culture of just letting guys drive to Rudy Gobert and drive past them. They've created the culture of take fouls where we don't guard in transition. We just do a take foul. And the Jazz have a culture of, if you don't play hard defensively or if you play poorly, you're not going to miss any minutes. You're still going to stay on the floor. Guys like Eric Paschall, it didn't matter how good he played at the beginning of the year. Once Rudy Gay was healthy, his rotation spot was set in stone. Set in stone. I think it's interesting. Rudy Gay played 17. Paschall played... Rudy Gay still played more than Eric Paschall. It's just the way it goes. Joe Ingles, it doesn't matter what he does. He gets starter minutes, and he's going to play 25 minutes, and by heck, you better like it. Right? Trent Forrest has a monster game last game and has had just a monster couple weeks. It's really a bummer that he gets injured because a stupid ref can't stay out of the play. Let's hope the ankle sprain isn't bad, but Trent Forrest won't see any more minutes come unless there's a trade made. And let's not even talk about Jared Butler and Elijah Hughes. I mean, what's it got to be like to be these guys? Especially Elijah Hughes, who's been on this team for 2 years and can't sniff a minute. Can't sniff a minute. Not even tonight. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. And yet Hassan Whiteside can go out there and just be slow and lackadaisical and not try. And he's going to start next game if Rudy doesn't play. I can tell you that. The other thing that's really interesting is that confrontation with Rudy Gobert. Holy cow. I tweeted about it. You should go to my Twitter if you haven't already. You can see the aftermath of it. I forgot. I think his name's Lloyd. I always forget his name, but I retweeted it. So go to my account and you'll see the tweet. I retweeted the guy who caught the video. He's a guy that has season tickets. He's right by the Jazz bench, and he'll sometimes video things going on. Rudy Gay and Quinn Snyder were face-to-face yelling, and some sort of fight was going on. So that's interesting. And then the post-game comments from Quinn, where he got mad at the reporters. He felt like they were suggesting he lost the team, and he's angry about it. And, whoo, boy, not great. Not great right now for the Jazz. And there's just some weird things. I think, I guess we'll end on this because it's what you talk about. When you've lost 9 of your last 11 games, you talk about trades. The Jazz aren't getting anything too significant. I mean, they've been linked to, I think the story came out today, they're linked to Harrison Barnes. They've been linked to Robert Covington and all these things. They're obviously trying to find that kind of just better defenders that can shoot, But I'm kind of just leaning more towards just not getting anybody. Why would I? Do I believe in Quinn Snyder and this team enough to give up more draft capital? No way. And I know the Jazz suck at drafting right now. My gosh. Although I do like the Jared Butler pick. I think Jared Butler will be a nice player. I do not want to trade Jared Butler. I actually am very anti-trading Jared Butler. The sucky thing is he can't ever see the floor because the coach won't play him ever. So, it's just a bad situation right now with this team. And it's a little bit of, we're starting to get into the, seller's market here a little bit. Instead of being a buyer's market, the Jazz, in my opinion, might be a little bit of a seller's market at this point. Not bringing in guys, but we might be selling off certain guys and seeing if we can get some draft capital. This is why you don't trade. You know what? And I've kind of been on the fence before, but the older I get, the more I realize you need to be replenishing your team with draft picks all the time. Draft talent. Unless you can go get that guy. Mike Conley was great, but you know what? I don't know. I might be in seller's market right now. Mike Conley needs to impact the game more. 16 points and 10 assists is actually pretty good, and so maybe I'll lay off a little bit, but it just feels like for most of that game, the impact was just not there. And so, but you know what? 16 points, 10 assists, and I felt like he was the best player for the Jazz for much of the night, which he should be. He's Mike Conley. But you have to replenish your team with talent, with draft talent, and you have to play them. Jared Butler should be getting minutes. This bloated Jordan Clarkson contract, where some nights you have a night like this where it's a fun night, but then you'll have other nights where it's just like 2 for 14 or 3 for 13 or whatever it is, and you're paying like $14 million for that. The Jazz are paying Joe Ingles $14 million this season. $14 million for 6 points. Okay, I have one other thought, and because this is I'm a crazy person, and we've talked for who knows how long this video even is. The Jazz need to grow up. It's time for the Jazz to grow up, and be a man or be a woman. All right, grow up. The Jazz have for last 3-4 years been doing things with fear mindset for too long. Making decisions in fear. We re-sign Joe Ingles to too long. And you know what? I still like Joe Ingles, and he had a few moments tonight. He actually shot the ball well tonight. 4 once, 2 for 4 from 3. But he can't defend anymore. Utah re-signs Jordan Clarkson at like 12 to 14 million, whatever it is. And then we go out and we just play the same guys every year. We just say, well, Bojan Bogdanovic is a good player. We can't trade him because how will you replace him? So that's fear mindset. We just do the same thing for 3 years, the same rotation, but we try to just improve around the edges because you're afraid, well, what would happen if we don't have this player or that player? Stop doing it. Stop going in the off season in fear mindset. Stop going into the draft with fear mindset. My gosh. The Jazz go into the off season and they already know what they're going to do. They re-sign 2 players before free agency even starts. So you never know what you can even get. You know what the funniest thing ever is? Bojan Bogdanovic is like one of the biggest free agency success stories in the history of the Utah Jazz. And it happened because things went wrong. The Jazz went into that offseason trying to sign Nikola Mirotic, remember? And they thought the deal was done, and he changed his mind the night before, and the Jazz scrambled in free agency, and lo and behold, they were able to get Bojan Bogdanovic. Yeah, right? So they went for the safe, unscary option with Nikola Mirotic. It didn't work out. They have to go do something. And guess what? They ended up with Bojan Bogdanovic, who's been a success story for this team. It's an example of their own fear. Like, guess what? You can go out and get a guy. Go trade for a guy. Go make a move. Switch things up. Stop letting these players play without any sort of consequence. Stop letting players play who are just comfort zone city. Everything is just comfort zone with this team. It's just same thing every year. We're scared that we can't do better. Same thing goes for the coach. We just keep our coach because we're Utah. We could never do better. You're in fear mindset. That's like abusee mindset. Like, oh, I can't do better. I might as well just stick with this person. No! Go out and get yourself your soulmate, guys. Go out and find someone that is willing to like make a move or switch a lineup up. My gosh, guys, right? Stop making decisions out of fear. Grow up. And this is a life advice for everyone. This is just life advice. Stop making decisions out of fear. You're hurting yourself. If you never take a chance, nothing will ever happen. If you don't ever change the Jazz for 3 years, nothing will change. If that's what you want, great. But you will not get any better. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is insanity, right? That's the old saying. If you are afraid that something might not be better out there and you just do the same thing every time, then guess what? You have just ensured that good things won't happen, that something better will not come along if you just make decisions out of fear. Stop making decisions out of fear. And guess what? Sometimes when you go out there and you take a chance, you might get burned a little bit, but at least you tried. At least you tried, right? Everyone and their dog made fun of the Milwaukee Bucks for how much they gave for Jrue Holiday. Oh, they gave up like 4 first-round picks or whatever it was. It was an incredible amount. It was the whole draft chest, everything they had. And they went out and got Jrue Holiday. And things didn't quite work out because they switched up their defensive schemes and started switching and started doing things that they didn't want to do. And that came from the front office saying, stop doing stupid things the same way every single time, Budenholzer. Do something different. By the way, Budenholzer, who Quinn Snyder basically does the exact same thing as Budenholzer. It's just Utah Jazz Budenholzer 2.0. They said, no, we are going to learn to switch defense. We are going to play a different type of defense because now we have Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton and Giannis. And we can be special defensively. And they went out and they created an identity and they built their team around what Giannis needed. And guess what? They won the championship. And by the way, they're probably going to win it again this year. Who's beating Milwaukee? This Suns team's not beating Milwaukee. This Milwaukee team can go beat Golden State. Klay Thompson is not looking the way everyone predicted he would. Brooklyn can't keep 3 of their stars on the floor. And James Harden's now saying he's going to test free agency. Who's stopping Brooklyn? No one. So guess what? They took a chance. They went out and got a guy, and they're paying the dividends. What has Utah done? They signed Rudy Gay. Congrats. Utah re-signed Jordan Clarkson. They signed Rudy Gay and they said, we're good. That's great. By the way, we're going to trade Derek Favors and give away a first-round pick to do it just to get off the money. Now they don't have a first-round pick to combine with. They don't have picks to even make a trade for Jrue. So the Jazz are screwed. Congrats to the Jazz for doing the same thing for 3 years. And now 9 losses of their last 11. This is your reward. Congrats. And by the way, they could have traded Joe Ingles in the offseason. They tried to make a move, and Quinn Snyder stopped it so that he could keep Joe Ingles on the floor. Well, congrats, Quinn Snyder, for 6 points from Joe Ingles tonight. Congrats. 6 points, 1 assist, 3 rebounds. But hey, at least the Jazz don't have Kyle Kuzma or Moses Moody on the team. Congrats. Congrats. Had to get that in there. Get that in there. Anyways, if I had one thing I would say to the Utah Jazz and Ryan Smith and Justin Zanuck and Danny Ainge doesn't need to hear it from me because he doesn't live in fear mindset. But this Jazz team and Jazz fans in general, stop doing things with fear mindset. Stop being little fraidy cats. Stop quivering and just allowing people to impose their will on you. Impose your will on them. Do something. Act out. Stop being the scared little Jazz fan that says, oh, everyone always leaves us. Oh, Donovan Mitchell will be mad if we make this move. Oh, this, that, and the other will happen. Well, guess what? Those things are going to happen anyway. If Donovan Mitchell is going to leave the Utah Jazz, he's going to leave the Utah Jazz. Stop making decisions out of fear that every little thing you do might make him mad. Guess what? Does Donovan Mitchell own the Utah Jazz or does Ryan Smith own the Utah Jazz? And I love Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell should be the guy that they build everything around. The Jazz should go trade for Marcus Smart so that they can enhance what Donovan Mitchell does. Because that's what good things do. They say, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, those are our guys. Let's get guys that fit around them. Instead, the Jazz do things in fear mindset and sign Mike Conley. And do you have him as like training wheels for Donovan Mitchell? Because they can't believe in their own guy. Believe in your guy. I believe in Donovan Mitchell. Do you, Jazz? Do you, Justin? Do you, Danny? Do you, Ryan? Do you believe in Donovan Mitchell? I don't know. Does Quinn Snyder believe in Donovan Mitchell? Or do we have to put the training wheels on and keep Mike Conley? Because we just feel like we can't give the reins to Donovan Mitchell. Do the Jazz believe in him or not? Or are we just going to do training wheels forever? Mike Conley taking shots. Bojan Bogdanovic taking shots. At least we've gotten rid of the isolations from Bogey that were at the 3-point line. The post game is nice, but we've stopped giving these stupid asinine isolation possessions to Bojan Bogdanovic. Just absolutely ridiculous. And then also Jordan Clarkson. You know, it's training wheels, and I am so sick of watching this fear stuff. I can't handle it. I watch it every year, and every year they do the same thing, and they just run it back, and they say this team is somehow going to be better, even though it's the same team we saw last year. And guess what? You're going to see injuries. They're going to happen. And so this idea that, well, last year, if we'd have been healthy, we'd have won the finals. Well, guess what? You're going to have injuries. We saw tonight, Bojan Bogdanovic is hurt. You cannot depend on the Utah Jazz going into the playoffs completely healthy. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen. Someone's going to be hurting, some sort of ailment. But please, go into the trade deadline believing in your star. I believe in Donovan Mitchell. I wish that the Utah Jazz did. Right? And I wish the Jazz believed in him enough to say, you know what, Don, I know you like this guy, but we think you need this because you need this to win. And I know you like this guy, and I know you like that guy, and I know it's hard to say goodbye to this guy, and I know it's nice to have this coach you've been with all your life or all your tenure in the Jazz and all these things, and you're a loyal guy, and we appreciate that. But guess what? We want to win a title. That's the goal of all this. It's to win a championship. It's not to say the friendships we had along the way, those were the things that made the difference. No, it's to win a title. Right? Right? And if you're the Utah Jazz, you're not the Miami Heat. You're not the Los Angeles Lakers. You're not even the New York Knicks and Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn got the guys, the stars, not Utah. Kevin Durant's not coming to Utah, okay? Giannis is not coming to Utah. The free agency, James Harden, when he tests free agency, he's not coming to Utah, okay? You have to take risks. If you're Milwaukee, you have to take a risk. If you have one shot with Giannis, you have to take that shot and go for it and believe in your guy. And I guess they kind of did that with Mike Conley, but man, it just hasn't worked out. And they have held on to other ancillary players when they should have been going out and getting guys that fit needs better instead of just going to guys that fit a system. Gosh, stop that. And this will end on this. I've been going way too long. I'm just frustrated. The Jazz have been getting players around a system instead of around the talent on the team. Okay? Stop getting guys, the coach's system that never changes and adjusts. Get guys that fit the talent of your stars. There are 5 players on the court. Usually 1 or 2 of them are all that matters. The other 3 to 4 better fit what those 2 guys do. Not the system. The system is not the star. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are the star. These 3 guys need to enhance what those 2 do. All right? Donovan Mitchell's not the greatest defender, so you better have one of these guys be a defender. Probably 2 of them. And you need another guy that can handle the ball so that if Donovan Mitchell gets trapped, then you have someone else. But that's the idea. You need to get guys that fit that mold, fit what Donovan Mitchell needs to win the game. And they have not done that. They have gone overboard with the shooting, which is fine, but we found out it doesn't work. And now we're reaping the rewards. And now everyone's 35 years old. The Jazz can't defend anyone. And they have no draft picks. They have no... I don't know what they do. There's not any easy answers. They've painted themselves in this corner. And it's frustrating. And I tell you, we talked about it last year. We talked about it last offseason. We've been talking about it all year. People were whining to me about talking about trades 3-4 months ago. But guess what? It was just apparent. Joe Ingles came into the camp out of shape, and we should have traded him last offseason. And I heard those rumors, and I heard people sending me DMs for things. It turns out it was Quinn. And if Quinn can't see that Joe Ingles is just not it, I don't know what else you have to say. If a coach is making personnel decisions and he's this bad at seeing what the personnel is doing, I don't know. All right? I don't know. But it's bad. It's bad. It's very bad. It's very bad. Yes, people on Twitter will go make threads about how, Joe Ingles is actually really good for the team because this Basketball Reference win share plus minus 3-man lineup this. Guess what? He can't guard anyone. And he came into camp out of shape. And he can't even hit a three. What's the percentages right now? And I hate to rag on him because it's not just him. But he's shooting 35% from the year. It's 10 percentage points worse than last season. So if coach can't see it, I don't know what to do. And Royce O'Neal has just tapered off. It's just not that it. It's just not it. It's just not it. All right? These are just raw numbers. I don't even know. 3-point percentage is actually pretty good. Okay. But the defense is just not there. It's got to be better. But I tell you what, Royce O'Neal, when he's on the floor with two other good defenders, looked pretty darn good. He looked pretty darn good. But when you have Royce O'Neal with bad, undersized, bad, somehow when they're switching off of Royce, he doesn't look as good. And I would say that his defense has tapered off. He's got to be better at staying in front of the man. But when he's on the floor with this guy, and they can switch on the perimeter, all of a sudden it looks pretty good. And the coach doesn't see it and doesn't adjust and doesn't have lineups that use it. And so I just don't know. And yet again, the Jazz will have to go either in this trade deadline or this offseason trading away players so the coach stops playing them. Because it's literally. And you know what? We made a trade. Last trade deadline, we traded for Matt Thomas. I just hurt my own feelings by saying that. Our big move last year was to trade for Matt Thomas. And we traded away a second-round pick for that. We traded for Matt Thomas. Matt Thomas. I don't know, guys. All right, let's just end it there because I don't know what else to say. I didn't know that rant was in me, but who knows? There's a lot of things that are in me that that come out. That came out of me like Alien when the alien comes out of the guy's chest or whatever. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. We got a new starter. Shout out to Andre. Everyone say welcome to Andre. Andre Anthony Ailes. Try Ben for a trade. I would love Ben Simmons. Let's go get Ben Simmons. I don't even care. Quinn's yelling with Rudy Gay. Give me a break about culture. Can we? What do the Jazz have left for excuses? I don't know. What will the Trotskys out there say next to just stand up? I don't know. But they don't even. The culture apparently is not that good. And we knew it wasn't good because we literally have Quinn that won't talk to Dennis Lindsay last year. They literally had like Steve Starks having to send message like a freaking carrier pigeon to talk. So don't tell me about culture. I guess maybe with the players, they have fun. I'm glad they have fun. They're not winning titles though. So I guess I'm glad Call of Duty night's going really well. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. Tyson Price, the price is right, my man. Baby Elliott Madsen, X marks the spot with Zintas. Jordan the GOAT, Best Rule, Ryan Perry the legend, Joshua Hansen the Danish Destroyer, and one Anton Warren, Ezekiel Raisibe, the man from down under. I got the hiccups. JT Buckets Wardell, Austin R. Grant, editor extraordinaire, Eric C. The C stands for champion, Donald Schooley, schooling all of us. DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Lee Christensen driving the lane, Patrick Kugel, the connoisseur, Robert Hall of Fame, and DW Jazz going all the way. I still believe, DW. I still believe. And guys, sorry, you know what? This turned into a big long rant, but it was coming. When you've lost 9 of your last 11, I don't know. It's rough. But you guys are the best. Thank you for watching. The fact that we can be here and have a Jazz chat. The Jazz have lost 9 of their last 11, and you guys are here. It's amazing. Shout out to all of you. Shout out to the Utah Jazz. Shout out to Fry Sauce. Shout out to Crown Burger and the goodness that it brings in our lives. Like and subscribe to the channel, guys. I will talk to you